Good morning, everyone. Welcome to your SCubeTV. We have a guest from Detroit, District 3. Mr. John Cromer. He ran for the State of Representatives in Michigan, District 3. So, welcome to the show, Mr. John Cromer. How are you today?
Hey, good morning. I'm fine in Detroit, where it's a nice, beautiful day. Kind of cloudy out, but I believe it's going to be a beautiful day.
Very good. So, can you tell? I know you ran for the state representatives from the District 3 for a primaries in Democratic Party. So, can you tell us a little more about yourself? Your career, and then what you were doing other than the politics, and then what made you to try and get into the attracted to the politics, and why you ran for the politics. We can talk about the next question, but at least can you tell us about your pre-politics career?
Okay. Well, first of all, I want to say that I am a proud returning citizen. I'm not proud to say that I had encounters with the law or made indiscretions, but I'm proud that I become the person that I am today, to be able to articulate and voice the changes that are so much needed in our criminal justice system. So I want to say that I am a returning citizen, and I want to be able to see changes because I did 13 years in prison here in Michigan for shoplifting. I stole a pair of gym shoes and a set of bed sheets, and then I encountered some racism in prison, where racist corrections officers began to issue vindictive and retaliatory misconduct reports because of my personality. One in particular told me that I was black but didn't sound black enough, so he started writing me tickets. In fact, I was thrown in segregation originally for having a dictionary that was past due. I had checked it out from the general library and did not turn it back in on time because of my busy work schedule inside the prison. I missed my library call out, so I couldn't take it back on time. So anyway, that was my excuse, I believe, at the time. I didn't look at the report, even though I still have it. I didn't look at it in the last 16 years. But I do recall, because I was just as devastated as most people are, shocked that I'll be placed in segregation over a thesaurus dictionary. Long story short, I was able to get out of that situation through the help and assistance of a former Congressman, John Conyers, and civil rights mother, Rosa Parks, who both intervened on my behalf. And I was then transferred from one facility to another facility, where I was able to carry out my time and finish out the long stretch of my incarceration. When I came home from prison, I got my first job about 2 weeks out of prison. I don't want to go into a long testimony, but I believe it was divine intervention. I said a prayer with my pastor, Dr. Charles Gilchrist Adams of the Hartford Memorial Baptist Church, the night before. I was supposed to go to this program to help me find a job as a returning citizen. They were going to help me find a job. And Dr. Adams said a long prayer the night before. And part of that prayer was that God would use me as an instrument and as a tool and a voice for second chances, and that God will help me to help others to knock down barriers to employment and self-sufficiency. So that was one of my motivations. But the most important part of that whole prayer and that phone call that I had with Dr. Adams is that before I hung up, he told me that if he said, son, what time do you have to get there tomorrow to your appointment? And I said, sir, I have to be there tomorrow at 11 o'clock. And he said, well, if you get there on time, God is going to meet you there. And I was convinced. I mean, I was absolutely convinced that God was going to meet me there. I mean, Dr. Adams said this long prayer, the type of prayer that just to let you know, where I was standing up in my mom's kitchen, fresh out of prison after 13 years in prison. I was home for 13 days, standing up in my mom's kitchen on her telephone, the long phone with the cord, where you can walk back and forth in the kitchen. And this pastor is praying for me. He's praying, saying his long prayer, and I'm listening to him. And now he's praying so long that I'm starting to say, Amen, Amen. But he kept going. And then eventually he said, so what time do you have to be there tomorrow? I said, 11 o'clock, sir. He said, well, if you get there on time, God is going to meet you there. So I got there on time with the aid of another deacon at the church who picked me up from my mom's house and took me to my first interview after prison. And I introduced myself to the people, the job developer who was going to go back to his office. His name was Doug Graham. So, Doug, if you're watching this video or watching this interview, I want to say hi to you, Mr. Graham. Mr. Graham wanted to see me at 11 o'clock. So, when I arrived there, I told Mr. Graham, hey, man, it's the first resume I ever sent in my life. I sent it through email, and maybe you'll get it. So, he said, well, have a seat in the lobby. Let me go check and see if we can find the resume. So I sat in the lobby. I'm waiting for Mr. Graham to come back with my resume. But as I'm sitting there, a door opened way in the back of the office. And when that door opened in my eyes, it seems like the light had cut on in the office. Like God had taken, I described to some people, God had peeled the roof off of the building. Now, I'm on the top floor of this building. And for all you Detroiters, this building is right next door to the Department of Elections. They were my neighbors at 2990 West Grand Boulevard on the fourth floor. It seemed like God had peeled the roof off of this building. And this lady, this white Caucasian woman by the name of Dr. Lee Bowles, you can Google her, Bowes, Lee, Lee, Dr. Lee Bowles. She's the president and CEO of America Works in New York City. She happened to fly here from New York that day to check out the office in Detroit that she had opened just weeks prior. And she saw me sitting in the lobby. And she walked up to me and she said, excuse me, have you been waited on? And I said, yes, ma'am, I'm waiting for Mr. Graham. And she says, oh, and I said, but you know what? I think I did bring a copy of my resume with me as well. I forgot I had to mention that to Mr. Graham. And so, hold on for 1 second here.
Sure.
Thank you. 1 second here. I just got to.
No.
If I can just. Okay, I think my. So I'm a proud dad, so you guys know that as well about me. But anyhow, that's my blessing after the story. You understand? The story that I'm continuing to tell you is that when Dr. Bowles walked up to me, she happened to hire me right on the spot. She put her hand on my shoulder and said, you know what? I think we can use you around here just to be our administrative assistant. You can answer the phones and start a filing system and greet our participants. I'll pay you $8 an hour. Can you start on Monday? I said, yes, ma'am, I can start on Monday. She says, hey, Linda, hey, Kathy, hey, Doug, hey, get this guy an application. He's going to be our administrative assistant. And so I'm sitting there in the lobby filling out this job application, and Dr. Lee Bowles walks past me again, and she says, hey, Kathy, hey, Linda, hey, Doug, come on, guys, let's go across the street and get some lunch at their Fisher building. So they're walking out of the office to go to the Fisher building. So as I'm walking out behind them, Dr. Bowles turns around and says, no. She says, Mr. Cromer, I hope you don't mind, but we're going to go across the street and get some lunch. And we would love for you to stay here and run this office until we come back. We'll be back in an hour. That's your desk over there. We'll be back in an hour. And as they got ready to walk out the door, I said, hold on. I said, wait a minute. I said, what am I supposed to do? Oh, what am I supposed to say when the phones ring? She says, Mr. Cromer, the name of our company is America Works. And it's something about you that tells me that you're going to figure out the rest. We'll be back in an hour. That's your desk over there. And so when I sat down, the phone started ringing. And I don't think I ever told Dr. Bowles this. Maybe I didn't, but this is what happened. When the phone started ringing, I didn't answer the phones because I thought that I was being punked. I thought that I was on candid camera. I didn't want to answer those phones. I didn't want to believe that I could just walk into a place after 13 years in prison and they hire me right on the spot and leave me in the office with all this brand new computer equipment and told me I'm running things. They come back. I didn't want to believe that. So when the phone started ringing, I didn't answer the phones. I just let them ring. When they stopped ringing, I pulled out my brand new cell phone I just had for 13 days. And I called my pastor, Dr. Adams, on his cell phone. And I said, Dr. Adams, you're not going to believe what happened. He said, what happened, son? And I explained to him what happened. After I explained to him what happened, then I walked into this place, and I was not here for about 15 minutes before the president and CEO of this company walks up and hires me right on the spot, and then leaves me in the office and tells me I'm running things until they come back from lunch. He said, well, praise the Lord. Now get off this phone and get to work. So that's how my career started after prison. Honest to God, that's how it started. And so there I was sitting there as an administrative assistant, watching all these long faces of men and women come through our doors looking for help, looking for a job. All they want, they'll take anything to get started. They just left the yard crew by God in prison. They just left the kitchen crew by God in prison. They just left any mediocre janitorial job in prison. And now they're ready to get any job to make a difference in their lives and in their family's life. So here I was accepting these people, and now they're going out basically kicking rocks and sadness because they can't get this opportunity. So what I did is I created a script, a telephone script. I had some telemarketing training as a young teenager, so I created a telephone script. And so I got the yellow pages. And then I started to call around to different companies, telling them who I was and what our program was about and what we were trying to do, accomplish. And so I messed around and I called the second largest construction company in the world, which was Barton Malow. And I did my little phone spiel to a man named Keith Wiederholt. Keith Wiederholt he was over the apprenticeship program for the carpentry program for Barton Malow, which is a large construction company in the world. So I called Barton Malow and I told Barton Malow, Keith Wiederholt, I told Keith about what we were doing. And my job as a telemarketer was to send the job developers out. That was Bill and Doug. Those were two Caucasian men that worked for America Works as job developers. My job was as a telemarketer was to get the employer on the phone, tell them what we're doing, and try to set up an appointment for the job developers to go out and present to the employer. However, when I did that to Keith Wiederholt at Barton Malow says, you know what? I'm glad you called today because we're having a manager's meeting tomorrow at 2:00. And I was wondering, maybe you can come to our manager's meeting tomorrow and say to our group what you just said to me over the phone, because I think it'd be beneficial to us both, or something to that degree. And I said to him, well, sir, I'm not the job developer. I'm just the administrative assistant. I'm the person that's making the appointment for the job developer. Keith said something like, well, but you said it so eloquently. You explained it so well. It sounded so good coming up the way you said it. I just want my management staff to hear it the way that you said it. And I said, well, I'm not the job. He said, well, that's all right. And I said, no. I said, Keith, can I call you back? Can you give me a couple of minutes to call you back? I just want to check some schedules and stuff. So let me call you back. Maybe I can, but let me just call you back. So I hung up immediately from Barton Malow, the largest construction company in the world at that time. And I hung up from them and I called to New York and I told Dr. Bowes, I had to tell her myself then. I had to tell her, Dr. Bowes, I don't want to get in trouble, but this is what I've been doing. I made a script and I've been calling around out the yellow pages to companies. You didn't tell me to do it. Nobody told me I could do it. I don't want to get in trouble for doing it. But I just got off the phone with the second largest construction company in the world, and they want me to come down and do my script to them in person, along with information about our program, and maybe they'll help us. Dr. Bowes said, okay, go see what they want. And so I went down and I talked to the employers, and we walked away with 8 apprenticeship placements from Barton Malow, where they actually took 8 of our returning citizens and put them in their carpentry program, starting them at $15.03 an hour. And I'm proud to say that some of those young men last a long time in that program and made good money. Some made up to like $30 an hour because of their skill and because of their dedication to their craft. So I'm very proud when I say that I work with companies like Barton Malow and other companies like Foreman Mills and others who have helped us put returning citizens to work, Tarns Packaging, just to name a few, Ford Motor Company and Visteon, just to name a few, AT&T and Comcast, to name a few employers that have been able to work with me through this process. And so that's been a motivating factor for me. The fact that I've been instrumental in helping thousands of individuals, Detroiters and local Detroiters, uh, seek employment. So that's been a great accomplishment as far as I'm concerned. I love having people get that opportunity for work when they're able to work, to do that. So that's been a great accomplishment. And
So really
so,
nice. Go ahead. You want to say something more?
well, no, that's where the job development came into place. So after that happened, Dr. Bowles says, you're going to go out every day for 2 to 4 hours a day and do job development. So I would go out 2 to 4 hours a day, and I would come back with a lot of job orders, and I would supersede my colleagues. In other words, I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but I would come back to the office with more job leads or job prospects, if you will, than my colleagues who spent double the time out in the field, if you will. So I would spend 2 hours compared to their 4 hours, or 4 hours compared to their 8 to 10 hours, and bring back more job leads and have more job placement. So there were some changes that had to be made in the organization, and they were made, and the organization went on to be very, very successful, with our numbers being verified by the workforce development officials in the city. The only problem is that America Works came to Detroit on a demonstration grant. And that meant that we had 2 years to uh, gain traction and gain local support funding to continue our work. Unfortunately, that did not pan out the way that we all would like it had. But the good part is that a lot of people were able to get jobs. So that's the good part. The good part is that we were able to save a lot of families and give people a sense of direction that keeps them out of trouble in the first place. And that's through the activity of work, introducing people to work. And after this pandemic, I'm sure we're going to talk about it pretty soon, but after this pandemic, that's one of the things we need to talk about, is how do we get people back to work, back to the activity in the world of work. Because where there is work, there is an opportunity for home ownership. Where there is work, there is an opportunity for higher education. Where there is work, you're going to find a very safer and more productive community where you find people working. And so after this pandemic, or the scare of and the threat of this pandemic has subsided, we need to talk about job fairs, and training opportunities, apprenticeship programs, and mentoring, job coaching, and getting people back and getting our world back to spinning at the speed that it was before COVID-19.
Very nice, very touching story of a returned citizen getting into job, and also, I mean, helping other people getting the jobs, which is I got touched with the story what you told me. I mean, which I mean, I heard. I mean, once I was in the city of Detroit in a meeting with, I mean, Doug. I mean, he was presenting and I was in the audience. I mean, he was talking about the returned citizens. That's when I learned about the returned citizens and their opportunities and those kind of things. It is not that easy to get a job for a returned citizen in the other normal market. I mean, which I've been in the staffing business for a while. IT contract staffing. So we know the challenges of a returned citizen would be, because the moment you apply, once you're shortlisted, I mean, you have a background check, and you have a background check, something red flag, it will be a big hurdle or an obstacle in getting into the job market. So what is that? I mean, I mean, not many people will be able to make it once you get to the wrong side of the wrong side, by willingly or unintentionally. I mean, it will be hard for them to come back to the normal. So what is that which made you to stick to the right path and grow in a right way, and also help other people uh, do be on the right side?
Well, I think it's the vertical connection. I want to again associate some of this to my pastor, Dr. Charles Gilchrist Adams. He's our emeritus pastor now. His son, God bless him, is our current pastor, who I love with all my heart. Dr. Christian Adams is our current pastor, presiding pastor, but our emeritus pastor, Charles Gilchrist Adams, who inspired me, who kind of like adopted me while I was in prison. Um, taught me about a lot about myself spiritually. Um, After we said that prayer on October the 6th of 2004, I had been home for about 13 days. And that's when I heard the voice of God say to me, as clear as you and I are speaking, to take my footlocker. And a footlocker is a container that is brought home from prison and is kept in prison and maintained by prisoners to keep our property in, mainly our legal documents, letters, legal transcripts, any type of paper property that we have. We're able to store it in this footlocker. And so the day after this prayer, God told me to take my prison footlocker and put it into storage because I have some work I need for you to do. And that's when God sought me and put me on the path to ban the box in Detroit. I had been home from prison for about 5 months and 1 day, and I was around the Detroit City Council table. I had already petitioned the Detroit City Council way back when, way before the year changed over to 2005. So I was home from prison maybe about 60 days or so when I petitioned the City Council to ban the box. Now, the ban the box ordinance, I remind you, was something that I discovered while I was in segregation in prison. So while I talk about being racially profiled and abused and retaliated against and just discriminated against racially and all that stuff and going through all that torture in prison, I want to say a biblical scripture to that passage that says, what they meant for evil, God has made for good. So when God told me to tuck that away and I'm sitting around the table to ban the box, the good part of that was I learned about that in the segregation unit when they had their feet and their knees on my neck. I was still able to read in the law books that somewhere around the country that other progressive cities like city of Boston, Massachusetts, and Los Angeles, places around California, even Battle Creek, Michigan, were banning the box. Simply put, that means that they were removing the criminal record question off of some of their job applications so that people can get a second chance. If you leave the question on the job application, you cannot expect for Pookie or Ray Ray or Shanika or Donald to go look for a job. If they have a criminal record, they're not going to do it because the question says, have you ever been convicted? And if they tell the truth, yes, their application is going to be discarded, overlooked, or even thrown away. So we have to take the question off of the application to motivate people to go out and look for opportunities, and also put employers and opportunity givers, if you will, on notice that they have to meet me first. They have to meet you first because you might be rehabilitated. Quite frankly, you were born in sin and you are not perfect. There are no perfect human beings. I don't care who you think you are. You're not a perfect human being. God did not create us perfect. Only He is. He created us in His image. And creating in somebody's image means imitation. So there's a lot of imitation gods around here trying to regulate things. And we need to really understand that in order to be more like the God that we're supposed to be fear of, we have to give people second chances. We have to give people that opportunity to live this American dream. So
go ahead.
No, you go ahead because it's your show and I don't want to overtake your show. I just want
to very good points. You're bringing up. That's fine. From that perspective, written citizens' perspective. See, 1 year back, we ran a pizza store with among other friends in the Troy area. We had our own challenges in keeping the manpower. We were not able to retain the manpower well. We closed at least a week up and then we closed it from our side. We were not able to manage it properly. So we said it's not instead of draining the money, we closed that. My question to you is, so how is it? There are some opportunities some places, and there are you just said rightly, the Detroit have resources. They are we're looking for the job. So, it's a good, I agree that we need to give the second chance, but how safe or how, I would say, healthier environment will it be for employee and employer to hire the returned citizens? Let it be in the
Well,
restaurant or let it be in, I mean, just I want to understand from your perspective, yes.
from my perspective, all industries can find a way to employ certain levels or certain calibers of returning citizens. And for instance, and the reason I know this to be true is because when I think about prison life, there's every job available in prison life. There are people that work in food services. There are people that work in janitorial. There are people that work in the commissary, which would be retail. There are people that work in the healthcare, even though they're down to the janitorial, they're still cleaning the hospitals. They're still cleaning the hospital rooms. You understand? They have jobs. They're doing things. What's so disheartening to me is the fact that there's a lot of people that's never been to prison that are being affected by this, but they don't feel the magnitude of it because they did not go to prison or jail. So they don't feel any hiccups or any missteps in their lives. Maybe because they were able to maintain their job because they bonded out of jail in time and were able to take off days to go back and forth to court, and they have an understanding employer, so to speak, blah, blah, blah. So they didn't go through all the wash that or the ostracizing that most returning citizens go through. So that's one way to look at it. But once you have went through this and you have been denied apartments and housing and jobs and credit and other programs and services, do you understand that there are young African American men and women out here that cannot go to college because they did not register with selective services before they turned 25 years old? I mean, we built all these roads that lead to prison. I think as a government, we need to start constructing roads that lead back to the American dream. And how do we do that? We do that by setting statutes of limitations on nonviolent crimes. That gives people something to work towards, something to work for, something to become. It gives them an opportunity to become. And you're going to have a nightmare unless you become. You're not going to live a dream unless you're able to become what you are dreaming about.
Gotcha.
And that's what we were able to convince the Detroit City Council. So the Detroit City Council, in way of my petition, in way of me spearheading the ban the box ordinance, removed the criminal record question off of some of their job applications to give people second chances, to at least get an interview. Because by God, I know if I got inside and got in front of that employer, that I'll be able to sell my skills and my abilities to the point that that employer is going to offer me a job. I know that, and I know that to be certain. And there's a lot of returning citizens that have that same certainty about their abilities to do the work. All they need is the opportunity to get on stage.
Just I don't want to tell the names here. I mean, we had a gentleman from the African American community, and when I ran the background check, I mean, we had an issue, but I mean, still, I mean, we went ahead and gave a chance. He did very well for us. So
we underutilized the returning citizens. So you understand, Sreenivas. How do you say it? Sreenivas.
Sreenivas. You can call me Sreeni. Yeah, no problem.
Sreenivas. What you have to say and what you have to understand, Sreenivas, is that this is an underutilized population of returning citizens. That majority are able-bodied men and women that are sitting at home answering the doors when the mailman or the FedEx driver knocks. I understand now with the pandemic that a lot of us are at home. I understand that part. But the reality is that there's a lot of people that can leave that house and go to work. That returning citizen, is that what you call them? A returning citizen?
Yeah,
can we
that's what I'm going to be
emphasize that word? Can we capitalize or acronym or emphasize the word citizens? Because I can tell you, after talking to thousands and thousands of returning citizens, they're not being treated like citizens, and they certainly don't feel like they are. So what are we going to do about that? Because they seem to be infiltrating our families, they're infiltrating our communities, They're infiltrating our workspaces whether we like it or not. And what thing that we probably don't like about it is that a lot of them, especially those who have come home from jail and prison, are rested, they're energized, and they're ready for work. And maybe their working performance is better than yours. And that may be a threat to your livelihood. So the threat to your livelihood says to me that you need to step your game up and stop judging people on their past mistakes. And when people say to me that non-violent criminals should be punished forever, I say to them, how many grapes at the grocery store did you steal or eat before and did not pay for them? How many grapes did you eat at the grocery store that you did not pay for? How many? Because you're so good. You're so honest. And I know you never parked in a handicapped spot since you don't have a handicap plate. Come on. Or you never even told one of your coworkers, hey, man, can you punch me in or sign me in? I'm going to be running a little bit late. Or, hey, man, can you punch me out or sign me out? I'm going to be leaving work a little early. That's against the rules. You're stealing from your employer. Huh?
I agree. I mean, there are.
So I'm just trying to find honest people here, Sreenivas. I'm just trying to find
These two things happen. I mean, do we come late and we do ask. Sometimes people do ask for. Consider the late coming to the office or a day off. People do manipulate. I mean, a little bit. I mean, no doubt about it. I mean, everybody does some manipulations in their life with their family or with their kids or with their office or wife, or those kind of things are reasonable. Limited is fine. I mean, not to the extent of where it goes to the legal issues, but that's fine. I mean, I don't say it is fine, but people do it. I don't want to say that when it is fine, but it is. Yes, people do.
Right.
In some situations they do it. Sorry.
Right. Well, let me tell you something so you understand. Loss prevention at a grocery store will arrest you for one grape versus a bag of grapes. So you can still get arrested for eating one grape that you didn't pay for. It's still theft. So I understand that we minimize and say, well, it doesn't raise to the level of legality. It doesn't raise to a violation of the law. Well, then again, who wrote the law? So that's the point I'm trying to make to you. If we wrote the laws, we can rewrite the laws. If we wrote the penalties, we can rewrite the penalties. If we do things that's locking families out, we can do things to unlock the doors to let families in. So it's about the decisions that we make as collectively as a government and as the people that are at head, that are entrusted to serve and protect and serve the people of the government or for the government or the people of the land, if you will. The Americans, the Michiganders.
Yeah, perfect. I mean, we have been talking about the returned citizens situation and the opportunities. Just, I will conclude this one with one point. I mean, I think there is one more. There are many organizations who are encouraging to hire returned citizens. One in particular I know about. I'm not kind of advertising. I don't know them at all. It's a big company. It's called Mod Pizza. I mean, they do hire. I mean, a lot of returned citizens. I mean, all over the country. And
I think they're in Detroit. They're in Detroit.
No, they are in Troy. There are a couple of them, one in Troy and one in Rochester.
Well, then offline, I know some people looking for jobs, so you make sure you get that information.
The headquarters is in Seattle, but I mean they are spreading all over. In particular, their corporate website itself, they mentioned clearly they have been encouraging to hire returned citizens, so it may be helpful for you. Look, thank you very much for sharing your views on these things. But what made you to go to the public office? I mean, done for the House of Representatives from District 3.
Okay, well, what made me run for public office is my encounter with President Barack Obama. When I got the call from when he ran for president in June 2008, I was home at my mother's house on June the 1st. I got a phone call that I was able to meet the president the next day at Troy High School. So obviously it was exciting, and I went. And the president, long story short, selected that I ask him the last question at the town hall meeting. And so I asked him, I stood up and asked President Barack Obama what his plans were for prisoner reentry. And he gave such a motivating and eloquent answer. that I just felt compelled that I had to help him with that. And number one, he opened up by answering my question by saying that you're a good example of what's possible. And so when he told me that I'm a good example of what's possible, that kind of raised the standard in my life that I had to start setting an example. I had to start being the change that I want to see. And how do I do that? I do that by, number one, doing positive things in the community and within my own personal life and staying out of trouble. Number two, being able to mentor other young men and women who have endured or who are on their way to this lifestyle and thinking that it's cool. Let them know at the breaks, hey, this is not cool. You don't want to go there. You don't want to be away from your family. You don't want to be away from your own choices. You don't want to be from the fast food restaurants, do you? Because you're not going to get them in prison too quickly, okay? So, just simple as that. Something as simple as that will make people do the right thing or give them the right path So mentoring is important to me. So that's what happened. And so I was so motivated by President Barack Obama that I actually joined his campaign. I even went down to Denver, Colorado for the Democratic Convention, where I served as a host at the convention. It took a group of young men, and we all went to the inauguration and stayed in D.C. For a week with the president. It was a wonderful encounter, a wonderful experience, and it just motivated me. And then when I got back to Detroit, and I just want to footnote this to say that the group of young men that I took with me to the inauguration, to President Obama's inauguration in 2009, were a group of young men that were failing in school. They collectively probably had a 1.6 grade point average, and they were failing in reading and math and not doing what they were supposed to do over at Henry Ford High School over there. And so I took this group of young men with me. And lo and behold, when they came back, their attitudes began to change. Their grades began to rise. And they graduated with honor roll status, 4.0s after that trip. They started getting 4.0s on their report cards. They actually, God forgive me. They actually started challenging each other and reading and writing.
Oh, thank you. I mean, it's a very good motivational, very inspiring story. No doubt about it. I'm happy to hear that from you. Yep, I understand. So that shows the opportunity. I mean, if you give an opportunity, how well they can raise and then how well they can.
You have to take our young people outside. It's taking our young people out and bringing them outside of their vernaculars to see the possibilities. And when the president said to me, you are a good example of what's possible. We have to teach our young people that there are possibilities other than crime, other than doing things the wrong way. There are other possibilities. There are other choices that you can make. And certainly, if you don't make the right choice, things that happen to me can happen to you. And what I think my goal now, as I seek to dedicate my life to public life, is to share with the public what happened to me, and therefore we can hopefully prevent it from happening to others, especially young Black men and women that have potential, that have. Sometimes I think that if I was not in jail so long, I could have been president of the United States. But one bad mistake in our young people's lives, it takes their whole life forever. And how does this affect their children and their children's children? Your children needs backpacks, school supplies, trips to the amusement park, by God, Cedar Point, Walt Disney. How can they get those things if we are not allowing their parents to get jobs? Now, I'm not having too much sympathy for violent offenders. I have to say that. So I do want to go on the record that we should have no tolerance for violence. If you got a gun and you're misusing that gun and hurting people, we have no tolerance for that. If you're shooting people just because you're getting mad and you're telling somebody you're mad in an argument with, I'll shoot you, you're irresponsible gun owner. And you need to turn your gun in now before you end up killing someone and going to prison for the rest of your life and killing yourself. Period. So that's how I feel about that.
Right.
And then talk about citizens. I think returning citizens, especially those with nonviolent crimes, should be able to get a gun license to protect their families, their homes, and their businesses. You say we're returning citizens, right? We get out of prison, we start our businesses, we get gas stations and liquor stores and barbershops too. We have to go to the bank and deposit our money too. How do we protect ourselves? We get nice cars and nice homes too. How do we protect those from thieves and burglars? Are we not able to protect ourselves? We're returning citizens, right?
I agree. I mean, yeah, everybody is. I mean, has a right. I mean, see, in my opinion, I mean, the justice should be. I mean, what I read is very few lines in the law books. I mean, I'm not a lawyer or anything. What they said is probably, yeah, you can add anything to this particular point. I mean, the law is you should bring the person to the normal life back. I mean, your job is to make sure, okay, whatever they made a mistake, no problem, we understand, make them understand. And the law enforcement or the job of the law is to make sure they are come overcome the issues they have and come back and mingle with the society and lead a normal life and be a good citizen forever. So that is the that's what my small reading about the law in the big time long back. So you can add to that one. So what is your opinion and what is I couldn't completely correlate that particular lines with the kind of what the narrative you're being telling about the people who went for small mistakes and then they're ruining their complete life and also next generation, which is impacting the lives of the next generation and their future generations too. So,
It
so
becomes
yeah,
a genocidal. It becomes a genocidal question. It
that
becomes
is.
a genocidal question. And sometimes,
So
if I wrote a book,
what is that? I mean, you suggest? I mean, let us say if you become a House of Representatives or if you get elected to an office. So what is that you suggest? I mean, what is that you should be doing for these kind of situations? Yes.
for these type of situations, number one, I would ask the governor and the Michigan Department of Corrections to examine closely their kangaroo court system. That's number one. Examine the way that you allow officers, especially racist officers, when you have a prison facility built in an all-white community where there are no black or Hispanic or any other type of minority members in that community, but a prison, and those white folks don't see black people until they get to that prison, chances are somebody's going to be disrespected in the course of communication. And that's what's happening inside the prison. And because that is happening inside the prison, for whatever angle it's happening, something needs to be done to examine the tools that they're giving to corrections officers to oppress or correct, if you will, the prisoners. And you don't correct people by lying on them, and you don't correct people by making them give them racist accounts or false accounts to a parole board, who's then going to consider those reports to deny parole release. That's denying people liberty and freedoms. And that's certainly denying some type of constitutional rights for liberty and freedom. And of course, the judge gave you a minimum and a maximum, but he did not send you there for punishment. Nobody is sent to prison for punishment. Everyone is sent to prison as punishment. There's two different things. If someone is there for punishment, that means that somebody had their foot on somebody's neck or back or head. If they're there as punishment, that means that they're facing the consequences for their misconduct out here in the free community. And you're right. Once they have paid their debt to society, they should be able to reintegrate into our society as nothing ever happened. Now, I'm not saying in my proposal, so you understand, I am not for totally erasing anybody's criminal behavior, period. So you understand that. That's not what I'm. That's not the type of expungement law I'm talking about. The type of expungement law I'm talking about is going to automatically expunge non-criminal records that are more than 7 to 10 years old. period. So the last crime you commit, if it's non-violent, you are going to get automatically expunged. Now, if you have a violent criminal record, we're going to talk about that later, but let's talk about the non-violence right now. The non-violent is going to be automatically expunged. If you reoffend, the police, the prosecutor, and the judges and your defense lawyer should be able to see your past conduct. I don't care about that. That will keep people out of trouble. Knowing if you get in trouble again by going to court, that your behind is going to be sent away for a longer time, will keep people out of trouble, I believe. But what's going on is that we're inundating our system with non-violent offenses and non-violent offenders forever, for life. So we're missing the opportunity to concentrate on the violence. We're missing the opportunity to pay close attention to those who are shooting us, who are killing our kids in the streets. That's where we're missing the beat. Because it's like we're playing three-car motley, or three-car, what they call it, three-car motley with the car, where you get inside those con men do the 3 cars outside the utility shop. They have the 3 cars. You have to guess where the rock is. You get $20. You just keep giving them your money, and you just keep giving your money. That's what we're doing with our Department of Corrections. We're like three-car motley. There's a 3-car motley game. It's just a constant vicious cycle at our Department of Corrections. We call it the Department of Corrections, but I say to them, where are the corrected people? Where are they? Show me. Show us the corrected people. I mean, because we're giving you millions and millions and millions, hundreds of millions of dollars a year, hundreds of millions of dollars a year. Hell, you're even building new jails in Detroit right now. A brand new Mayflower right on I-75 and Forest sits right off of the freeway. So the new convicts can see the cars roll by as they ride in themselves. I just don't appreciate the way we do it like that. We need to do, like you say, give people a second chance. Let them live their lives. They have families. They have bills to pay. How do you think he's going to pay his rent and pay his cell phone bill or that car payment? Okay, because you understand that there are some car dealers in Detroit that are giving people cars that don't even have a damn driver's license, and they have a car. So what about that? You
We
understand?
understand. I mean, the second chance is no doubt. I mean, probably they need it and they deserve it. No issues. But at the same time, there are some issues in the society that people who come back had some other issues too. Like, I mean, some people have psychological issues. Those kind of issues created some trouble in the society. That is also, I mean, causing a fear in the society, in the people, that which will be, they are afraid to, mingle with those people. Or, there are unfortunate situations where, are kind of aggravating the fear against, with the written citizens. There's also there. So we have to. The balancing will be a little challenge. I know.
Yeah, to me, that's hypocrisy. That's hypocrisy right there. You know why that's hypocrisy? Again, that's hypocrisy until it affects your family. That might be your stance until your son or daughter gets into trouble. And as soon as your son and daughter gets into trouble, you got a million questions for the judge, the prosecutor, and the lawyers. You're wondering why they're overcharging your son. You're wondering why he's got to do all that time. And you're going to accuse them of railroading your son to jail. So I'm not trying to hear all that. Well, I just never thought about this logical.
I am not questioning that. I'm not going. I'm not, let it be whoever it is. They should go through the consequences. My point is, most of the written citizens, we have not seen issues, and I told you, we have one gentleman with us, and who has done a very wonderful job for us. So I have no issues on that. So my point is, there are one or two people, who come into the society with some psychological issues, and say they snatch a, go chain, or they kill somebody, they take a car away. Those kind of situations creates an issue. That's my point. My point is not directly talking about people who, well, that percentage may be very less. I would say maybe 2 or 5%, but the 2 or 5% people will create a lot of panic or fear in the people. That's my point. Yeah. Sorry, I'm not able to hear you.
Yeah, I heard you. I just got difficulty here, but anyhow,
yeah, my point appreciate, is not, yes.
I appreciate you giving the opportunity to the returning citizen, and I'm glad that they were able to to be a good example of what's possible. And certainly, and that's what we want to demonstrate. So I appreciate you being able to witness that. And that's our whole stance, is that employers like you that open up that door of opportunity and that take a chance on returning citizens, that can testify to the good experiences of that. Unfortunately, there are some bad apples in every bunch, okay? But we cannot let that deter us from giving people second chances. So I think that we covered that in terms of why I'm so passionate about it. People say I'm passionate, but it's really my life. It's not so much a passion as it is my experiences.
Yep.
And I always refer to that as one of our great American poets, John Keats, who said that nothing is real more than experience to a man. Nothing is more real than experience. So we can go to Lansing and say that my nephew, my cousin, my brother, my friend, my sister, my brother, my wife, my husband, whatever. But I'll be able to go to Lansing and say, me, I did that. And here are the reports to say it. And if you don't want to read my copy, FOI your own copy, FOIA a copy of your own from the Michigan Department of Corrections. In fact, have them give you the videotapes that they made of me in 1996 when Rosa Parks and John Conyers got involved to have me moved from one facility to the next. Ask them to show you those VHS tapes. They had to record me per the governor, per the director of the Department of Corrections. They had to record every staff interaction with me from between the months of, I believe, September 1995 until May of 1996, somewhere in that area, wherever I was sent to Marquette Branch Prison. But for the whole stretch there, after they got done choking me and starving me and beating me, and Rosa Parks and Congressman John Conyers got involved and sent me the Wall of Tolerance certificate. Rosa Parks signed it and sent it to me and said, baby, put this up on your bulletin board and read it every day. And I read it every day, and I worked my way home. And so it is my moral obligation, it's my spiritual obligation to do all the things that I'm doing for the betterment of not only my people, but of my community. And that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. The community in which I'm a part of, the returning citizens community, you are taking advantage of the citizens part and not recognizing us for what it is. And that's where I'm running. That's where I draw the line. So I run for state office for a couple of reasons. Number one, I'm a felon and I get to run. I get to vote. Number two, I'm a felon and my name is on the ballot. All I need is your vote to continue the work that God has put me in charge of. And number three, I'm a felon, a returning citizen, and I am not going to let you get away with anything less than treating us like citizens.
Very nice. And thank you very much for all your views and perspectives on your experience you had, your life and your career. Is there anything else you want to say to the audience? I know we have many other points to discuss. I'll come back to you another day.
Because we spend a lot of time on this one, and I just want to say before we move on, I promise you this is the last thing I'm going to say.
Sure.
People accuse a lot of time on returning.
Asking for the show today. Yes, go ahead. Please go ahead.
And people are asking about it, so they want me to spend a lot of time on the returning citizen stage. So I'm going to tell you this much. I spent a lot of time in prison for something that I shouldn't have been in prison for in the first place. How about that? Number two, and final, when people say, what are you going to do for the senior citizens? You spend so much time talking about returning citizens, you don't spend no time talking about the senior citizens. And I say to those people, all the senior citizens that I spoke with have one common thread. And it's not about their high prescription drug costs. And it's not about their arthritis or their doctor's appointments. You know what it is? They want their grandsons and granddaughters home from prison to help them back and forth to the grocery store and back and forth to the doctor's appointments and to rub their knees and sore feet at night. They're sick and tired of us sending CNAs and nurse assistants into their homes that are pilfering through their bank accounts and through their purses, that are preying upon them in the name of health care. They want their grandchildren home to help take care of them. How about that?
Gotcha. That's fair enough. That's what the constituents of the District 3 are looking for. So you heard them and you conveyed it and what you're trying to do, which is Good. I mean, good to hear that. So any other last message? I mean, do you want to talk anything about it? We have 4 more minutes.
No, I'm ready to move on now. Let's go to the next subject. I think we got the seniors involved now. Let's move on.
Yeah, okay. I mean, we have 3 more minutes. I mean, if you want to say anything about the Black Lives Matter, which is going on, I mean, is it, I mean, the
Black
real,
Lives Matter.
yeah, is it the political parties which are taking advantage of the situation, or is it the real movement, and what, I mean, is it, we also been hearing about movement has been derailed for a different direction to some portion of it. So yeah, just your views, your 3 minutes, please.
I love the Black Lives Matter program. I think they're doing a great job in getting the message out about equality, and that's important. What's bothering me is the number of statues that are being knocked down and torn down. I quite frankly like the artifact of some of those statues. Number one. Number two, if we're going to be tearing down statues, it's going to benefit. I mean, what benefit did that do for us to tear down a statue? How does that help us move forward in life? Those people have been dead for hundreds of years already, and that's why they have statues. They've been dead. So why are we marching and doing all this stuff for dead people? I don't understand that part. That's the part that confuses me. When there are so many Black lives that are living that are affected by the statutes that are governing our criminal justice system. Let's take some of those statutes that govern our criminal justice system, the statutes that judges and lawyers and prosecutors refer to, and let's grab some of those statutes by the neck and drag those statutes through the streets so that we can start to give people second chances. Of all races, second chances. That's what's important. And it's so much anger because we have so many barriers in our way that we just can't seem to get to the top together collectively as the people. And we need to run a little harder, jump a little higher, run a little faster, and keep on running until we just can't run anymore. But don't crawl. We're not crawling anywhere. They say that BS money talks and BS walks. Why are we always the ones marching and protesting? Why do we always have to walk away? Why can't we walk to the table and get some things done? Why don't we change policies and rules and procedures and begin to remove the barriers that separate people from employment and self-sufficiency?
Okay. So we hear your views and your perspective. That's good. I mean, and the last thing is I heard, I mean, you're planning to run as a write-in candidate for the November 3rd elections. I mean, you came in the 3rd or 4th position in the primaries, and you're looking at running for the same position as a write-in candidate. Can you talk about it a little bit?
Yes, the Explorer Committee is out. I don't want to say too much because I don't want to burn any bridges and I don't want to upset anybody. But the mission that we're on is much greater than any other relationships that I ever had other than outside of God and with my church and family. I just want people to understand that this is no disrespect to anyone, but Detroiters are being oppressed. I witnessed on election day, a lady cried to me who was expecting her absentee ballot in the mail. And on election day, she had yet to receive it. And when she arrived to the voting polls over there on 7 Mile, Illinois, when she arrived there to the voting poll, she was told that she could not vote because she was already shown that she had done an absentee ballot. This lady said she's never received it. So the infringement and the impression of voting is really disturbing to me to see it firsthand. And so it took like a knock in my stomach, knocked the wind out of me, so to speak, but I'm not going to give up. About 7 years ago, I was hurt very tragically, seriously, not tragically, but seriously in a home invasion. I had personally, I'm just giving you some personal footnotes to your audience. Because of this injuries that I sustained in a home invasion as a victim of a crime, I had 44 surgeries, okay? 40 on my right ankle and 4 on my elbow. And I hurt all the time. I mean, every day I hurt. But I have to stay positive. And one of the ways I do that is to think about some of the things that I can do to help my community move forward and how I can help remove the barriers for someone that's just like me. And certainly that's not given any type of way to, when the doctors told me that I was not going to run again because of my injuries, I promise what I'm going to do. I'm going to keep running because I can make a difference right here from this chair. I can sit down and make a difference. I can write and read and once we teach our children that, because I think one of the things we want to talk about is education, and I want to talk about your agenda, move your agenda forward, but I want to talk about education because there's a lot of politicians out there talking about, well, we're going to fix the schools. Well, guess what? The schools are closed. How are you going to fix something that's closed? Why don't we talk about fixing education overall? We need to fix education, period. Because some of these people that are claiming to have PhDs, master's degrees, and bachelor's degrees in some college are making some of the most reckless decisions ever to be made at the Capitol that are ruining, detrimenting to our family, that are separating our families, that are tearing our families apart. Did they learn that in college? Or is something really wrong with our education system? Because what type of person went to college that decided to say that we're going to take people that owe child support because they don't have a job and they can't pay it, but we're going to make them a felon?
Gotcha. Thank you very much for your time and the views, Mr. John Cromer. We will have you on one more time on this show and take more views on other topics too. So today, because of the time, I have to end the show here. So have a nice rest of the day. Do you want to say anything in the last 1 minute? If you want to do it.
Thank you. I want to thank, I believe you call it SCubeTV. Is that what is the name of your show? SCubeTV?
Yes, Cube. Yes, Cube.
Oh, SCube. Okay, SCubeTV. That's it. Okay, SCubeTV. I want to thank you all for the opportunity to help get our message out. I want to thank you for this interview. And you could have talked to anyone else today, and I appreciate you talking to us. If there's anything that we can do to help you in your future, please feel free to reach out to us. And we look forward to talking to you either as a candidate, as a civil rights, activist in the community, as a job developer, or even as a friend. I'm always here for you. Okay?
Thank you very much for your views and have a nice rest of the day, Mr. John.
Thank you. God bless you. Thanks for the interview. Bye-bye.